Welcome to my kitchen. Happy hump day. And let's see, what am I going to be doing this morning? Definitely got my coffee. Got a puppy here, so let me go get a treat. You know the routine if you've been following me. We have one here that needs a treat and one in here waiting for a treat, so I'll be right back. Open that here. Here you go. There you go. Oops. Goodness. Okay, puppies have their treats, so now we can get started. Sorry about that. Puppies come first. As you've seen from my thumbnail, this is a week of fermenting, and I've been fermenting all week. So how did I start my week? I started my week making a sourdough starter. And then I did that was day 1. Yesterday was day 2. So today will be day 3 of taking care of the new sourdough starter and what you do on day 3. And also on my thumbnail, you've seen a jar, and I am fermenting this week. So yesterday, when I come on yesterday, I tended to my sourdough. I started my sourdough, as you can see back here. I have a grain mill, and I have whole white wheat berries. I put them through the grain mill, and I made this beautiful flour to start my sourdough starter. And then yesterday when we come on, we fed the sourdough starter on day 2. So today's day 3. So that was my first segment on fermenting, because the sourdough is doing a natural fermenting, and it's making like a natural yeast instead of going to the store and purchasing yeast. If you want sour bread, you have to have what's called a sour bread dough starter. And it's a starter, a natural yeast that you put in when you start making your sourdough bread. So that was day 1, starting the fermenting, because that sourdough is fermenting. Day 2 was yesterday. We fed the sourdough starter, and then I made sauerkraut in this 1 gallon fermenting crock. So that was day 2. So I did get my sauerkraut started, and it should be ready in 5 to 7 days. And then also yesterday, day 2 of fermenting, as you've seen on my thumbnail, we started fermenting some vegetables, and this has zucchini, onions, garlic, fresh rosemary, and some black peppercorns. So this started fermenting yesterday, and this should be ready within 5 days to 7 days. So that was the next thing that we fermented this week, because this week is about fermenting. And then, as you see on my thumbnail, today we're going to be fermenting some cucumbers. Now, I have chosen the salad cucumbers. You see the bumps on them. So when you're fermenting or pickling, you want to have the salad cucumber. So we're going to be doing fermenting some cucumbers today. And I'll take you through that process. And then I'm going to make some banana bread using my fresh milled flour that we milled on Monday. So let me get my little hands washed here. I apologize for my hair. It's still a little wet from the shower. I just got it up out of my way. Let me get my little hands washed and we will get started. The first thing I'm going to do is we're going to start with the sourdough starter. This is day 3. So what do you do with your new starter on day 3? We went through day 1 and day 2. So today's day 3. So let me get my hands washed and we'll get started. The happy hump day. We're halfway through the week already. Hello everybody and welcome to my kitchen if you're just coming in. And why am I talking about fermentation? Why are we doing a week of fermentation? When you're fermenting things, it has several purposes. Number one, it's a very good way to preserve your food, like making the sauerkraut in the crock out of cabbage, making the fermented vegetables with the zucchini, onions, garlic, and rosemary and peppercorns. When you are fermenting something and you are eating it, your body has both good bacteria and bad bacteria. So in order to keep a good, healthy gut, for gut health, it has a natural probiotic. Instead of going to the store, if you've been sick, you've had a cold or a little flu, you go and you get a probiotic. When you're fermenting, whether it be sauerkraut or the vegetables, or as I'm going to do today, the cucumbers, this will give you a natural probiotic, and it gives you good, healthy gut. Oops, we got a kitty and a puppy spatting, sorry. They have their days. So that's why we're doing a week of fermenting. It may take them a minute to settle down. We had a little spat. So, no, it's all right. Kitty's gone. Kitty's all gone. So, those are my babies. They apparently had a little spat with the kitty cat, so we're a little bit upset, but I'll just ignore them a little bit because they're very, very spoiled, and if I give them too much attention, I'm going to have to shut down my live stream. So anyway, if you have a good, healthy gut, it's balancing out your good bacteria and bad bacteria. And by eating fermented foods, such as sauerkraut, or the fermented vegetables, you're giving your body that natural probiotic that you need to keep a good, healthy gut. And this is one of the first ways that they used to preserve food. Because back then, they had access to salt, they had access to water, so they used salt to preserve their meats. They used salt and water to form a brine to ferment, like their vegetables, to turn their cabbage into coleslaw, and it gave them an overall healthy body because they were eating naturally a probiotic, and they were taking in that probiotic, and it gave them good, healthy gut. It balanced out your good bacteria and bad bacteria in the body. So fermenting is a very good way to create your natural probiotics, and it keeps your body healthy. So that's why we're talking about fermenting. And since I started off with sourdough this week, I went ahead and I'm just making this week of fermenting, the different things that you can ferment. What is fermenting? How does it work? And I'm kind of taking you through all of that. So I'm going to start off today with feeding my sourdough. And today would be day 3. And as you can see, I've got it covered in my cloth. And on day 1, we made a brand new sourdough starter. And all I did was take a pint wide mouth jar and put my flour and my water in it. If you go back to day 1 or part 1 of the sourdough starter. That's what we did on day one. I stirred it up really good. I put a coffee filter and rubber band on the top, and then I covered it in a dark cloth and put it in my pantry for 24 hours. Well, yesterday was day 2 of the sourdough starter. Since it's a new starter, what did we do on day 2? So we took it out yesterday. On day 2, there's very little activity. It just had a little bit of water on the top, a little bit of liquid on the top, which is what you wanted to see. And we fed our sourdough starter, and then we covered it back up, filter, rubber band, and our dark cloth, and put it back into the pantry. So today is day 3 on the new starter. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to uncover it with my cloth, because when I put it in my pantry, I want to have a dark cloth on it. I want to make sure that it doesn't get any light. So that's why I had the dark cloth. So today, this is my dough starter on day 3. And you can see it's a lot fuller. When I started off, it only had a wee little bit. You can see some liquid. And you can see how much higher. If you go back to part 1, you'll see how much higher this is raised. So this is what you want to see on day 3. I just have a coffee filter on the top and a rubber band. And the reason I do that is it can get air through the coffee filter and nothing can get down into my sourdough starter while it's sitting in my pantry. Now, I will go through this week showing you how to feed your brand new starter, how to make the starter, how to feed it. And then by day 5, it should be ready to put in the refrigerator. So that's why I'm coming on each day to show what are we doing today with our brand new sourdough starter. So I'm going to go ahead and start off today with what's called feeding it. It's going to be hungry. It's starting to ferment, and it's making a natural yeast for your sourdough. So this will be what you'll be using when you're baking sourdough. You'll be taking some of your starter out, and this will be what you'll be using as a yeast to make your sourdough. So I'm going to go ahead and move you over a little bit. And give myself a little bit of room. Now here is the, as you've seen on my thumbnail, these are the vegetables that we fermented yesterday, and you can probably see some bubbling in there, a little bit of bubbling, and that's what you want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out of my way for now, just to make me a little bit of room here in my little workspace. And then today we're going to ferment the cucumbers using some pickling spice, using our kosher salt, because you don't want anything with iodine. So I'm going to move that out of my way for now, and I'll move you just a little bit closer, bring you down, and we're going to go ahead and feed the sourdough starter this morning. We're going to take a look at it. And then I'm going to show you what you need to do on day 3. So I've got me a small spatula here. I've got my sourdough starter. I've got my fresh ground flour that I started off with. And I've got my 1/4 cup of that I'm going to be using to feed my starter. Now on day 1, when we made the starter, we just added the flour and the water. We stirred it up, we covered it up with the filter, the rubber band, the dark cloth, and we put it into the pantry for 24 hours. Day 2, we took it out, uncovered it, and whenever you looked at it, it had just a little bit of this liquid here on the top, not a whole lot of activity. So we went ahead and stirred it up really good. It had bubbles in it. You want to see bubbles, that's good. That's a good thing. We stirred it up. We added 1/4 cup of flour and 1/4 cup of bottled water. You can use bottled water or filtered water. You don't want anything with chlorine. So today's day 3. Now today we're going to do our first discard. We're going to take some of this out today. We did not take anything out yesterday. We just added to it, stirred it really good, covered it again, put it back in the pantry. So today's day 3. So I'm going to go ahead and get this uncovered. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. Hopefully you can see that. That's what you want to see. See all that bubbling and all that stuff happening in there. It's starting to do a natural fermenting. So before I do anything, I want to stir this up really good. And I want to make those bubbles. You want those bubbles. That's a good thing. Now, if you do not have your freshly milled flour like I have, you can use all-purpose flour as long as it's unbleached. You don't want any bleached flour, and you don't want any chlorine in your water. So you need filtered water, or you need bottled water. So today we're going to do our first discard. We're going to remove some of this sourdough starter, and hopefully you can see all of those absolutely wonderful bubbles down in there. That's what you want to see. You want to see all those bubbles. So let me go ahead and get something to put my discard in, because you don't want to put it down your sink. You know, flour, dough, it will clog your sink. So I'm just going to stir this up really good. I'm going to make sure I got everything off the bottom. Everything's really good and combined. And then I'm going to remove 1/4 cup of my sourdough starter. And I'm just going to put that in a thing, and I'm going to be discarding that. Go ahead and find me a damp cloth. I'm going to wipe this off because I don't want anything on my rim. And now I'm going to add another 1/4 cup of my flour. And this is my freshly ground flour from day 1. And this is a white wheat berry that I took through my Nutri-Mill and ground. So now I'm going to make sure that I feed my new starter. So I took 1/4 cup out. I'm just going to use my finger. It doesn't have to be precise. And I'm going to put 1/4 cup now back in. And then I'm going to add 1/4 cup of bottled water. Again, you don't want any water with chlorine. So filtered water or bottled water. So I'm going to add the 1/4 cup back in. This is day 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and stir this up really good. And if you were here on day 1, or if you go back and watch day 1, you're going to see I just started off with a wee little bit of starter, and my hands are clean. So yes, I'm using my fingers. I want to make sure I get all of that down in there. I want to get it all stirred up really good. Now tomorrow is day 4. And you've seen the difference in the activity. I never understood it, why I make too much of it so that you have to discard to begin with. Such a waste. By the time you get done making your sourdough starter, you're really only going to discard about a half a cup. So it's not a whole lot of waste. And this is a very small batch. So I'll discard another 1/4 cup tomorrow. And then that will be all of my wasted discard. So it's about a half a cup or less that you're actually taking out. Now I want to make sure I get this stirred really, really good. And I want to see those bubbles. Those air bubbles is what helps it to ferment. So you want to make sure you get the bottom, scrape everything, get everything well blended. Get that off my finger. And you can smell your discard. And if you've ever smelled yeast, that's about what you're looking for in your smell. And it's going to have that yeasty smell. It's going to be a nice smell. It's not going to be anything really sour, or it doesn't have a bad smell. And hopefully you can see all of those wonderful bubbles that I've got in there. And you want to see those air bubbles. So make sure you're stirring this up really, really good. Because those air bubbles is what helps the fermentation. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit more. And then I'm going to cover this back up. And I'm going to put it back in my pantry for another 24 hours. Now tomorrow is day 4. And by day 4, I should have a lot of activity. And I'll be taking my sourdough starter from this container, and I'm going to be really feeding it tomorrow. And I'm going to be moving it to a larger container. So hopefully you can see that okay. You can see all those wonderful bubbles in there. I hope I've got it close enough that you can see. And now I'm just going to cover it back up with my coffee filter. I'm going to put my rubber band back on. And the reason I use the white, soft white wheat berries is I'm going to be making a banana bread today out of my flour. So that's what I went ahead and milled on day 1. And I'll go ahead and be using that today to make banana bread, and then I should have enough left to continue my starter for the rest of the week. But by day 5, I'm hoping that this will be ready to put in the refrigerator. So when I started my starter, I only had a small amount, and now I'm already up to here. So that's how much this is gained as a starter, as a new starter. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in my pantry. I'm going to go ahead and cover it up. And my house temperature is around 72 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this again with my dark cloth. And I'm going to put this back in my pantry. And then I'll come back in 24 hours tomorrow. And I'll show you what we do on day 4 of sourdough starter. So let me go ahead and put this in my pantry, and I'll be right back. And I just set it in my pantry where it's not in a lot of light. My whole house temperature is on 72 degrees, so that's the temperature that this is maturing at. And as you can see from the discard, you can see a lot of bubbles in that. And that's what you want to see. You want to see those bubbles, because that's what's helping with the natural fermenting. So I'm going to go ahead and discard this because I can't use this really yet. And this is a new starter. And again, I'm going to put this in the trash. And I do have me a little handy dandy trash bag here, because I don't want to put that in my sink. Because if you've ever used doughs, it can clog your sink, and we don't want to do that. Hubby may not be happy with me if I do that. So let me rinse my hands here. So that's all the discard that I have today. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the fermenting. Since I'm doing fermenting this week. And again, this crock, I started my sauerkraut in it yesterday. And this is my fermenting crock. It's 1 gallon. And this has the moat, or heavy rim, that goes around the top. And whenever I put my cabbage in here, of course, I'm packing it down. I put my cabbage into a bowl. It's on my live stream yesterday. I had chopped up my cabbage. I salted my cabbage and massaged it a little bit so it would start to make a moisture. They call that sweating, or forming a moisture. And then I massaged it some more, let it set for 10 minutes. I put the cabbage little bits at a time in my crock. I used my pounder that came with my crock, and I just put small amounts in, and I pressed down all the way around inside, making sure I got it down as far as and as tight as I could. And as I done that, it was making moisture, which is what you want, because that moisture is what helps and what creates your fermenting. So I would do it as a layer, put a little bit more in, because I have old hands. They don't work really well. That's why I like the small crock, because I can work very good with it. It's only 1 gallon. So I'd put in my next handful or a couple handsful, and again, I would go and press down as hard as I could to try and help release as much of that liquid as I could. And I did that until I used all of my cabbage. And then this particular kit came with the weighted stones, and they're like a porcelain weight, and I put those in and pressed down on those as hard as I could, because you need liquid above your cabbage in order for it to ferment and to turn into coleslaw, or into sauerkraut. So once I got my stones in and got them pressed down, I added a little bit of brine, which is your salt water, your salt and your water. And again, you don't use any water with chlorine. And I used the correct ratio, and I covered it up with fluid to make sure that everything was covered. My cabbage was covered, and my weighted stones were covered, my porcelain weights. And I made sure I had plenty of liquid. And this particular crock is a fermenting crock, and you can see there's a little rim that runs around here, and you add water in that, and you can see the little notches that are cut out. Those are natural air, and it's already starting to smell like sauerkraut. So whenever you place that lid on and you add water, just a little bit of water, to your moat around your top, that forms a natural seal, and that allows your crock to burp, what is called burp, because all those gases are going to be building up in here, and this needs to burp. So this crock is made for fermenting, and the way it's designed, it's going to do a natural burp. And that water around the moat is going to cause a natural seal. So I know nothing's going to get down into my crock while I'm fermenting my cabbage into sauerkraut. And the vents on here, it's going to be able to naturally vent any gases that's in my crock. And I like this one because it's only 1 gallon, and it's tall and slender, and I can just move it around easily, and I can just set it on my counter. So my 1 to 7 days while I'm waiting for this to ferment into sauerkraut, I just have a really cute decoration sitting on my counter or my island. And so that's what I did yesterday as part of fermenting day 2. And then I also, as you've seen on my thumbnail, I was showing that if you do not have the fermenting crock, that you can use like a glass jar. And I went ahead and cut up some zucchini, some onions, some garlic, and then I added a few peppercorns. And I used the brine solution. That's correct. Now I know I can use this jar because it does not have a seal on it. Hear how loose that is? This is going to build up gases, so it needs to be able to release those gases because you don't want all that gas to build up and it has nowhere to go. That's not a good thing. So this jar does not have a seal. So I know that it's going to be able to let some gas out, and I'm going to have this setting on my counter or on my island. So for 7 days, I can just let that set and look at these beautiful vegetables. And I have, as you see, a gallon baggie in here, Ziploc baggie. The reason I have the baggie in there is my vegetables, just like my cabbage, has to stay underneath of my liquid. So with me not putting a weight in here, this would not ferment correctly. So I just put some water in my gallon Ziploc baggie, and it actually formed a nice weight. It's keeping everything down underneath into the fluid. And it actually forms a nice seal because it's a gallon bag and it's flexible. So while it's sitting there, every now and then, if I'm walking through, I may just lift my lid just to make sure that it has burped. And I'll let this sit on my counter for 1 to 7 days, depending on how much fermenting I want it to do. And I'll do that according to taste. I'll reach down in and take a vegetable out and taste it. And if it's where I want it, if that's where I think I like it, I'll go ahead and remove my gallon Ziploc baggie, and I'll put this into my refrigerator, and that will slow down the fermenting process. And then anytime that I want my fermented vegetables, I can just go to the refrigerator and take them out. If I want to add them to a salad or just take a few and eat them, I know that I'm giving my body a natural probiotic, and it's helping me to keep a good, healthy gut. It's keeping a good balance between my good bacteria and my bad bacteria. So that's what I did yesterday. So today I'm going to work on some cucumbers. I'm going to move this to the side. So that was day 1 and day 2. I used the soft white wheat berries. I ground those into flour using my Nutri-Mill, which is a stone grinder. It has stones. I made my flour, and you do not have to have all of that. If you just have all-purpose flour, just as long as it's unbleached, you can use the unbleached all-purpose flour and make your sourdough starter. So that was day 1. Day 2, and then I created the sourdough starter. Day 2, I started fermenting my cabbage into sauerkraut and my vegetables. So today's day 3. So I started off by feeding my starter dough, showing you what you do on day 3, because this is a new sourdough starter, and you have to feed it and take care of it. And usually by day 5, it should be ready to put over into the refrigerator. So I'm hoping by day 5 it'll be ready. So each day I'm coming on and I'm showing you what you do with your new sourdough starter that you just made. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to ferment some cucumbers. And these are a salad cucumber. They're organic. I'm so ready for this. Oh, okay. Thank you, Vicki. And these are salad cucumbers. See all those little bumps? When you are pickling or canning or your cucumbers, you want to see those bumps. You want, because these are for pickling or fermenting. So make enough to share with others. Okay. I'm only going to make a small batch today to try and speed this up because I have my bad leg and ankle, so I try to do it in short segments so it's not so hard on me. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a small batch of these salad cucumbers, and they're absolutely beautiful. And then I'm going to be using pickling spice, the same pickling spice if I would be pickling these in a vinegar. The difference between your fermenting and your pickling is when you're fermenting, you're using a salt water brine, a ratio between your salt and water, and using that to ferment your pickles. But if you were pickling them, you would be using the pickling spice, but you would be using a vinegar. So that's the two different methods that you can use. And today we're doing fermenting, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a small batch of my cucumbers, and I'll be using some pickling spice. I'll be using my small salad cucumbers. I'll be using the kosher salt, that or canning salt, either one. But you do not want any table salt because this is uniodized. There's no iodine. You don't want any iodine in your salt when you're fermenting at all. So use your kosher salt or use your canning salt. So I'll be using that. And then the only thing I'm going to be adding is my cucumbers. I have an onion, half an onion where I made my macaroni salad last evening. So I'm going to use that. Last year I had a bummer crop of cucumbers. I do not have access to a garden. So basically we do have fruit stands in the summer and I take advantage of those so much. But this was a Walmart delivery on Monday when I was doing my part 1 of my sourdough. I love your hair, sweetie. It's beautiful. Oh, well, thank you. Right now it's still a little wet and my hair is clear down here. So I just pulled it up out of my way this morning. So I'm going to be using cucumbers, about a half an onion, my kosher salt, and I do have 2 dogs, so my puppies may make a little noise. I'm going to be using the pickling spice, and I'm going to be using just a small clove of garlic. And then I'm just doing a small batch today. So I'm going to just show you how to do this in a quart jar. So if you're like me and you have a small family, it's just yourself and 1 or 2 others, you can do this in a small batch. So I'm just going to be using a wide mouth. Hi, Stephanie. Good morning. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm just going to make a small batch showing you how you can use a quart jar. I've got my handy dandy little baggie, and we'll use that whenever we get to how to put your cucumbers into the solution and to keep your cucumbers below. We do have neighbors, so I do apologize, but this is real life here. We have 2 Maltese. One is almost 2 years old, and one's almost a year old. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you down here, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. Let me just move these over. Give me a little bit, as I call it, elbow room. I need my elbow room. So I'm going to go ahead and wash up, just rinse these off really good, because those came from Kroger's. Or not Kroger's, Walmart. It was Walmart delivery. And I'm going to try and use about 3 of these absolutely beautiful cucumbers. If I need another one, I'll get it. If I don't need it all, I'll just make a salad. So I'm going to go ahead and just rinse these off real good. Let me come around here and get me a paper towel so I don't have water going everywhere. Get me a knife. And I'll go ahead and get started on this. I'm just going to go ahead and chop these up, slice these. I'm just going to make little slices. And again, this is a small batch. This is not a large batch. And my husband loves the garlic pickles. And by doing it this way, it's almost like having the garlic pickles, but instead of them being pickled, they're fermented. I'm hoping you can see that okay. I came in late. May I ask what we're making? We are fermenting some cucumbers. Instead of pickling them, we're fermenting them. Basically, I'm working this week on fermenting different things. I had day 1, which was Monday, and then day 2, and don't try this at home. Please don't cut towards yourself, but my old hands just don't work like they used to. And then today is day 3. Day 1, I made the sourdough starter, and then each day I'm coming on and showing what you do with your new starter and how you get it to grow to the point that you have your sourdough starter and you can make sourdough bread. And since I started the week out fermenting, I'm going to go ahead and just do a few things each day, or, you know, throughout the week, because each day I'm coming on to show what you do next to your sourdough. Each day, for the first few days, at least 5 days, whenever you're coming on, whenever you're making a new starter, you have to feed it, what's called feeding it. So that's what we're doing this week, is we're just doing some fermenting. And, see, I'm not sure. That may be more than enough cucumbers, so I'm going to stop there. I don't want to overdo it. And then today we're going to ferment some cucumbers. And these will be like a garlic pickle, but they're fermented and they're not pickled. And I just want to get a slice or 2 of onions. And this will make a nice, and again, please don't try this at home, but my old hands don't work like they used to, so. And with me making the sauerkraut yesterday, they're a little bit stiff this morning. So I'm going to use just a little bit of onion. And I'm only making a quart jar. You can make a larger batch if you would like. And I will have these fermented. So I'm just going to cut these in half. And then I'm going to go in half again and just quarter them. Because I want some nice, pretty pieces of onion in there. So I'm just going to move that to the side. And then I've got 1 clove of garlic. So let me get that cleaned. But fermented vegetables are very good for you. Anything fermented, because like I had stated earlier, exciting. Oh, okay. I'm glad you're excited about this. This is the way they used to preserve their food many, many years ago. when they, they had access to salt, they would cure their meats in salt or a sugar even, and they had access to water and salt, and they would ferment it, which is what we're doing. And that gave them a way to preserve their food. They could turn their cabbage into sauerkraut. They could ferment some vegetables. That way they didn't go to waste. And of course, most of their root vegetables, they could store those in their, what they called a cellar house or a root cellar where it was cool. And those would last throughout the winter. So this is an old way. But when they fermented it, when you're using anything fermented, it's giving you a natural probiotic, which helps to keep your body healthy, a good healthy gut. And you have your good bacteria and your bad bacteria, and it helps to balance everything out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of garlic in there. And this will be like a garlic pickle. But it's not pickled. It is fermented. So I'm just going to chop up a little bit of garlic. And this is strong garlic, so I think that'll be plenty of garlic. And we'll go ahead and get this in our jar and get started. So I'm just going to kind of move that over just a little bit. I don't need a whole lot of room, but I need a little bit of room. And I'm going to be showing you how to do this in a quart jar. I'm just making a small batch. And this is a clean, sanitized jar. And it's a wide mouth. So I'm just going to go ahead and start putting everything into my jar. I'm going to put in some cucumbers. Make me a little layer of cucumbers. I'm going to make me a layer of onions. And this will make some pretty onions. And then I'm just going to add some garlic. So I've got some cucumbers, some onions, and some garlic in there. So I'm going to do another layer. And you can use any glass jar that you would like. I'm just using a quart jar. I have one handy. And I'm going to put some more onions, another layer of onions. And I'm going to add some more garlic. Just putting it in layers. I'm going to add another layer of my cucumbers. I'm going to add another layer of my onions. Oops, I got another cucumber there. A couple little cucumbers, so let me get them down in there. And I don't want to waste, so I'm going to use what little bit of onions left over. And then I'm going to add my little bit of garlic that's left over. So that will give me a small batch of cucumbers that have been fermented. And this will be like a garlic pickle, but instead of it being pickled, we're fermenting. So now I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of my pickling spice. Hi, Tammy. Hope you have a lovely day. Oh, hi. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to my kitchen. Happy hump day, everybody. We've made it halfway through. Go ahead and get this open. And I'm just going to add a little bit of my pickling spice. Oh, and that smells so good. Look at all that good stuff in there. It'd be nice if YouTube had the ability to smell. So hopefully you can see that. So I've got some pickling spice in there, my cucumbers, some onions, and a little bit of garlic. So now, in order for me to ferment it, I need to make what's called a salt brine. And I'm going to use the same mixture that I used yesterday. I'm using bottled water. And I'm just going to get, I might go ahead and make 2 cups. I may not need 2 cups. Probably not. This is a small batch. So 2 cups of water. And you can do this, as I stated yesterday, according to taste. Good morning. Welcome to my kitchen if you just come in. You can make this more to your taste as long as you're following the correct ratio of your salt to water. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a 1/2 teaspoon. And you can see that is very coarse. What you making? I am fermenting cucumbers, and I'm going to be turning these into like a garlic pickle, but instead of them being pickled, they're being fermented. Whoops, I almost put that in the wrong thing. Talking. I shouldn't be talking. Don't talk. So, I know that's my correct ratio of my salt and my water. And I'm using bottled water. You can use bottled water or filtered water, but you don't want to use any water with chlorine. So what I'll do, I know that's my correct ratio that is required for fermenting. So what I'll do is I know what I want, how much salt taste I want. So once I get this mixed up, I'll go ahead and taste the salt water. And that's quite salty, so I'm not going to add any more. And this is the same ratio I used for making my sauerkraut, brine, and for making on my thumbnail, that was my fermented vegetables. So I'm just going to add some brine. I want to make sure I cover all my vegetables are covered. And I want to make sure that I have something that's going to hold these vegetables down into my brine, my liquid. So I have a small Ziploc baggie, just a sandwich baggie, and I'm going to add some water to that. I'm going to make a weight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this Ziploc baggie down in there, and that's going to work as a weight. And not only does it work as a weight, but because it's plastic, a plastic bag, so I'll close it all except for the corner. That way I can squeeze my bag. I can get it down in there. And I'm wanting all of my vegetables to be submerged in water. So this will naturally form a nice seal. And then I can go ahead and close that other corner. Let me go ahead and make sure I got all the air out of my baggie. I don't want any air in there. But my old fingers just don't work like they used to. See if I can get it to work this way. There we go. Got it. And I'm just sealing my bag because I don't want that water to leak out all over. And then I'm just going to put it in down on my vegetables. I'm going to take my finger and just kind of push anything that's up out of there. I'm going to push it down in. And then this baggie is just going to kind of fill that whole entire top. Oops, it came unsealed. I should have used a regular Ziploc, a heavier Ziploc. This sandwich baggie is just not cooperating with me, but it will be fine. We will make it work. Now, you see how full my jar is? That's too full. I need to have room for expansion. So I'm going to go ahead and dump some of this water out. And now I know my water level is way down. I'm going to go ahead and get all that back down in there again. Because this is going to be fermenting. As it ferments, it's going to bubble because gases are going to build up. So you need to leave room for expansion. And yes, my hands are clean. So I'm putting them right down in there. So I'm just trying to get all of that back down underneath my baggie. And then my baggie is going to form a natural seal, and it's going to act as a weight to keep everything down in my saltwater solution. And this gets to set on my counter and look pretty for 5 to 7 days. What I'll do is go through and check it, and when it gets to the stage of fermenting that I want, I'll go ahead and use it then. So now I'm going to go ahead and just put the lid back on, but I'm not going to screw this down. I'm just going to lay that on there. By me laying that on there, it's loose, and that's going to allow this to burp, and it needs to burp or to let those gases out. So by me just setting that on there, I know nothing's going to get down in, and it'll allow it to burp. But if it's sitting on my counter, looking pretty, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through maybe once a day, and as I walk by, I'll just lift my lid and burp it. If I see that there's a lot of activity in there, I may take a little bit of water out of my baggie to allow more room for expansion for while it's going through the fermenting. So that is fermenting cucumbers. What are you making? Oh, okay. Hi, watching from Detroit. Well, good morning, Detroit. Hi, Tammy. Hope you have a lovely day. Well, thank you. My mother used to put cloves or garlic. Yes, I love. You can do cloves. You can do garlic. I got the garlic in here, and then I'm using the pickling spice because my husband likes like a garlic pickle. So this is similar to the garlic pickle. So now this is another thing that I've worked on today, and this is more fermenting, and this can just sit on my counter or on my island and look pretty. It's absolutely gorgeous. And in 5 to 7 days, I have a homemade probiotic that's healthy for me. It's going, if I just eat these over a salad or just take a few out like you would pickles and eat them. I know that this is giving me a good, healthy gut. It's working as a natural probiotic. It's balancing out any good and bad bacteria in my body. And I've had this really bad cold, and that's another reason that I wanted to do some fermenting, because you can go to the store and buy a probiotic, but this is a natural probiotic. This has been used for hundreds of years, back whenever this was one of the only ways they had to preserve their food. They did what's called fermenting, by putting their vegetables in, or whatever they want to put in, and by using a saltwater brine, and then making sure that everything was covered in the brine and allowing it to ferment. So that this has been used for hundreds of years, and it's a very healthy way to eat. It's a natural way to get your probiotics, and that's basically what we're doing this week, is different things. I'm fermenting different things. And since I started off making sourdough, which that dough is doing a natural ferment, I went ahead and just made this a week of fermenting. So that's basically what I'm doing this week. I started off with the all white wheat berries, the soft wheat berries. I milled them with my stone Nutrimill stone grinder, and then I turned it into this beautiful flour, and then I made a brand new sourdough starter to show how you can make your own sourdough starter, and it goes through a fermenting process, a natural fermenting process, to make like a natural yeast. Is basically what your sourdough bread starter is. It's a natural yeast to make your sourdough bread. So I started off with the sourdough, and then yesterday I did the sauerkraut in the crock, the 1 gallon crock, the fermenting crock, and I took cabbage, and I'm turning the cabbage into sauerkraut by allowing it to ferment naturally in the fermenting crock. And then I was showing yesterday, if you do not have a fermenting crock, that you can use other containers. So yesterday we fermented some vegetables, and this has zucchini, rosemary, onions, garlic, and some black peppercorns. So this is fermenting. That's my fermented vegetables. And then that took me into today, and I did the fermenting of the cucumbers, garlic, onions, and I'm fermenting some cucumbers. So this is a whole week of doing different types of fermenting. So I got all of that done. Now the main reason that I used the soft white wheat berries and I turned it into this absolutely beautiful flour is because I'm going to make some banana bread. And if you're milling your own flour, you would use your hard white wheat berries or hard red wheat berries. Those are to make bread. But if you want to make like a fast bread, like your banana bread or your zucchini bread, or make any type of cake or desserts, your soft white wheat berries is the flour that you want to use to make your banana bread. So I knew I was going to be making banana bread, so I just went ahead and used some soft white wheat berries, and you can see this beautiful flour that it made. So that's the last thing I'm going to do today, is I'm going to make a banana bread, and I'm going to put it into my oven and bake my banana bread. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of my way. I want to set this here. Make myself a little bit of room. And the reason I'm doing the banana bread is, in order to make your banana bread, you have to allow your bananas to over ripen. So they're basically almost doing their own fermenting. So that's another reason I wanted to go ahead and add the banana bread, because I have the bananas. They're not as dark as I would like for them to be, but I think they'll be just fine. But you want really dark bananas. The darker, the better. If these were completely black, I would like it even better. But I'm going to go ahead and use 3 of these bananas, and I'm going to turn them into banana bread. So basically, these bananas have went from ripe, or almost ripe, to ripe, to now they're getting to the point to where they're, they look really rough. And if they even turned, like I said, all black, that would even be better. So these bananas are going through a natural fermenting process inside of their peeling. So I'm going to take these bananas before they go completely bad, and you're not going to throw them away. You're going to turn them into banana bread. So that's what I'm going to do with these today. So I'm going to go ahead and make me some room. Let me go ahead and put these back in the refrigerator. And I need to get into my microwave, so I'm going to move things around here just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to make some banana bread. And I'm going to be using just my glass bread pans today. And my husband loves walnuts, and I can't eat the walnuts. I have trouble chewing them. So I'm going to make 1 loaf pan with walnuts and 1 without walnuts. I'm going to be using my flour that I milled from the soft white wheat berries. It's a beautiful flour. So I'm going to be using that. And let me see, I'm going to need me a bowl. I'm going to be using a glass bowl. I'm going to be using, you're going to hear my puppies in the background. I apologize, but we're real life here. I'm going to be using a potato masher to mash my bananas. So let me go ahead and get started on the bananas. So I'll move you just a little bit closer here. Move you down. Hopefully you can see that okay. You don't really need to see me. We'll just work on this area over here. So I'm just going to use 3 bananas. I wish they were a little bit more ripe, but this will be fine. So I want 3. No, Lily. No, baby. They probably hear my neighbors. And they are young Maltese, and they're just learning all of the new routines. I need a little bit more. Whoops, easy. I need a little bit more elbow room. Sorry about that. Did I scare you, Miss Lily? Oh, did Mama scare you? Sorry. So I want 3 bananas. I'm going to try and get my ripest ones off of there. And I'm going to turn this into some wonderful, delicious banana nut bread. So I hope everybody's doing good on this Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. We're halfway through the week, everyone. We're getting it done. Now, I'm just going to mash my bananas. And they're pretty soft, so they're going to mash pretty easy. Again, I'd like to see these a little more brown. a little more black, but I think they're going to mash up just fine. So I'm just mashing those up really good. And I'm just going to let this set, and I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my ingredients ready. Oh yeah, those mashed up absolutely wonderful. I think it'll be just fine. It's about the consistency of an applesauce. I'm going to go ahead and move that off to the side. And I'm using this cookbook today. And this is a Betty Crocker Christmas cookbook. And this has some absolutely wonderful recipes in it. And I really like the banana bread recipe. As you can see, I keep it marked. So I'm going to be using the banana bread recipe right here. So it says that I need 1.5 cups of mashed, very ripe bananas, which these are not quite as ripe as I'd like, but it'll be okay. And it says 1.5 cups, which equals 3 medium bananas. So we did that. I'm going to need 1/2 cup of milk. It says buttermilk, but I just use whole milk. So let me go ahead and mix up a little bit of milk. And if you've been watching me on my channel, you know that I mix up my own milk. So let me get me a cup out. And it says I'm going to need, what was that? 1/2 cup. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix that up in my little measuring cup. And this is a whole milk powdered milk. And I love to use it for baking. It does an absolutely amazing job. And I've got some oxygen absorbers in there, so let me move this out. And I need 4 tablespoons for 1 cup. And I only need 1/2 cup. So I'm just going to use 2 tablespoons. And normally for a cup with the powdered milk, I'd be using 8 ounces of water. So I'm only doing 1/2 cup. So I only need 4 ounces of water. So I'll go ahead and get that together. I like using the powdered milk for baking, for cooking, and we do camp a lot. And there's a lot of times when you're camping, you don't have access to go grab milk. And by having the powdered milk available, you can get whatever done that you're doing, whatever you're baking. And it's a very nice shelf-stable milk. Now, your whole milk does not last as long as your 2% because it has fat in it. So its shelf life is about a year, and I get the number 10 cans. Let me make sure I got everything mixed up. And it makes absolutely wonderful milk. So there's my milk. I should have gotten my ingredients out, but I didn't have enough room. I was running out of room. So I'm going to go ahead and move my baking dishes over. I want to get my oven started on preheating my oven. So let me go ahead and get that started. And I'm going to be baking this at 350 degrees. And I'm going to need 2 eggs and a half a cup of butter, but I need my butter softened. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the microwave and soften it. I hope everybody's doing good today. Hello, welcome to my kitchen if you're just coming in. Right now we're starting a banana bread. We're going to be making 2 loaves, one with walnuts and one without walnuts. And we covered some more of the fermenting. And today we fermented the cucumbers with a little bit of garlic, clove, a little bit of onions, and some pickling spice. So if you want to go back to the beginning of the live stream, you can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the microwave and get me some melted butter. And while I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and see if there's any comments. Hello, welcome to my kitchen if you're just coming in this morning. We're doing all kinds of goodies. So let me go ahead and get the rest of my recipe together. Okay, I'm going to need 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So let me get my flour. Oh, I'm not using all-purpose flour. I'm going to be using 2.5 cups of my freshly milled flour. So I got my flour. I've got my butter. It's a half a cup. And I just want to melt this. And then I'm going to need 1 1/4 cup of sugar. So let me go ahead and get my sugar ready. And get some more measuring spoon out. I didn't have all of this ready because I was doing my fermenting. Okay, it's nice and melted. So I'm going to go ahead and just set that right down there. And I'm going to need some baking soda, so I'll go ahead and get that out. This is just a throw it together as you go kind of morning. Okay, so sugar, butter, eggs, check. Bananas, good. Milk, good. Vanilla. My flour, baking soda, salt, and of course I'll be putting some nuts in one of the loaves. Okay, so let me go ahead and read my directions. And again, I am using the Betty Crocker Christmas cookbook. I absolutely love the banana bread recipe in this book. So it says, move your oven rack to low position, which I have, so the tops of my pans can be centered in the oven. I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees. Grease the bottoms of my pans only. So let me go ahead. I'll do that right before I put my batter in my pans. And I'm using 2 of the glass bread pans. In a large bowl, stir sugar and butter until well mixed. So I need 1 1/4 cup of sugar. And I'm just going to mix this right into my little bowl. I'm not going to put it in my big bowl. So I need 1 1/4 cup. There's 1 1/4. And I'm just going to stir this up real good. Make myself a little more elbow room. So we're going to make some banana bread. We did our fermenting already. We checked our sourdough day 3. We discarded 1/4 cup of our sourdough starter, and we added 1/4 cup. We stirred it really good before we discarded it. Then we added 1/4 cup of flour and 1/4 cup of water, and we got all of that stirred up really good. We covered it back up, and we put it back into the pantry until tomorrow. And then tomorrow we will do day 4 of the sourdough, new sourdough. This is a new one. We just made it, started Monday. So tomorrow will be day 4. Okay, I've got my sugar and my butter mixed well. So now I want to stir in eggs and mix well. So I've got 2 eggs. And I'm kind of limited on my space here in the kitchen because we started remodeling, got halfway through, and then we purchased some new property. So we're going to be moving the mobile home to new property. So we just halted the remodeling until we can get moved. So I'm just going to stir this up really good. I could have gotten a whisk. It would have probably been faster, but this will be all right, I think. I just want to get it all stirred up and blended. I like banana bread, and it's a little bit cool here this morning, so I think banana bread will be amazing. And I made macaroni salad yesterday, so I'm going to have hot dogs with homemade chili, hot dog chili, and macaroni salad for dinner. And I thought I would make my banana bread today. I was waiting on those bananas to get a little ripe, but for some reason, they just did not want to cooperate. Okay, I got my sugar, my butter, and my eggs well blended. Now I'm going to stir it in with my bananas. So I'm going to move this big bowl over. I'm going to go ahead and mash these just a little bit more. Get these bananas off of there. And then I'm going to move this over into my bowl. Oops, I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm just going to add that into my bowl of bananas. Sorry about that. Didn't realize I didn't have you moved over. I love banana bread. I think it's so good. Especially on a cool morning. When this gets done, I'm probably going to wait till it cools a little bit and have some with some soft butter. Okay, I have mixed. I'll start in with my eggs. So I'm going to get me a nice big spoon here. And I'm just going to mix my bananas and my eggs and sugar and butter. Get all that mixed up real good. All right. And my oven has preheated to 350. Now I'm going to add my milk and my vanilla. I need the half a cup of milk and a teaspoon of vanilla. So my half a cup of milk. And I need a teaspoon? A teaspoon of vanilla. So we'll go ahead and get that in there. Do you like banana bread? I love banana bread. Okay. Beat with a spoon until smooth, so we're going to go ahead and get that mixed in really well. And banana bread is so easy to make, and it is so delicious. And now we have that mixed until it's smooth. So now I'm going to stir in the flour, and I need 2.5 cups. And I'm going to be using my freshly milled flour. And I'm going to get 2.5 cups. So I'm going to scoop from my bowl into my cup. So I make sure I have the right amount. And this is my freshly milled flour. Oh man, that is so fluffy. There's one. Two. And today's kind of a do it on the fly kind of day. And there's a half. And then that's going to leave me plenty of flour to make it through the rest of my week, putting my sourdough starter together. So I'm just going to move that out of my way. Okay, so 2.5 cups of flour, baking soda, and salt. And I need 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So 1 teaspoon of salt. And I don't want to get my book messy. That's why I'm stepping out of view and back in. I'm reading my instructions from my island. And I need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Oh, this is going to be so good. And I think that is all of my ingredients. Now, it says to add nuts. I don't like the walnuts, but my husband does like the walnuts. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. I'm going to put half of my batter in one of my cake pans, one of my glass baking dishes. And then I'll add the walnuts and put the other half into my second glass bread baking dish. And this flour, oh, it makes, if you have the availability to mill your own flour, your desserts and everything just seem to rise a little bit higher. They're a little bit fluffier. I absolutely love the fresh milled flour. And I'm just going to take my spoon and I'm just going to mix this all really good and get everything all combined so I don't have big lumps. So this is what we are doing today. We got a lot done already, and I've been on here about an hour and a half. I like to stay on about an hour and a half or less, so I'm kind of pushing this because I do have that bad leg and foot, so I try to take it easy on my leg and foot. So I want to get all this blended, and we'll get this in the baking dishes, and we will be ready to bake some banana bread. I'm going to go ahead and spray my 2 glass dishes. And I'm going to do that over the sink. So I don't make a mess. And it says to spray the bottoms only. Now I want to put half of my dough mixture into one pan. And I'm just going to kind of guesstimate here and do approximately half. Maybe do another good spoonful or 2 for good measure. We're going to call that half. And yes, my hands are clean. So that'll be 1 without walnuts. And then I'm going to add some walnuts from my wonderful, amazing husband. And I'm just going to kind of break these up a little bit. I don't want them completely whole, but we'll get him some walnuts in there. About a handful. And I'm just kind of breaking them up a little bit. I'm not crushing them, because he loves his walnuts. Just kind of helps to spread it through the dough better. That's a really dark walnut, so I'm going to take that one out. And that looks good. I think that will work. And I'm just going to mix all those wonderful walnuts up in there for him. And then I'm going to put the other half of the dough in the second baking dish. little bit of a rest there. My old hands just don't work like they used to. But I get it done, and that's all that matters. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start some water running over there. Make that a little bit easier to clean. And then I'm going to put my 2 banana breads in the oven. Walnuts is on the left and plain is on the right. So there, I've got another thing accomplished. Got everything done that I had hoped to get done today. It's been a very productive morning. Get that water turned off. So I hope that was informative. To do a little recap, what did we cover today? We had the sourdough starter that I had made with the flour that I milled from the Nutri-Mill, the stone mill, using the wheat berries. That was the same flour I used in the banana bread. We started the sourdough starter on Monday, and that was a brand new starter. And then each day, that was day 1. Yesterday was day 2 of what do we do on day 2 to our starter. Then today was day 3. So on day 3, we did our first discard. We took our first discard out of our starter, and we fed what we call feed it. We added more flour and water, and we got it all stirred up, covered up, and back into the pantry until tomorrow. Today we did the cucumbers, and we are fermenting them. I have the cucumbers, onions, some garlic clove, a clove of garlic diced up. I have pickling spice, and this will set and ferment. And it does have a lid on it, but it is not tight. The lid is just laying on there so it can naturally burp. I added my salt brine to ferment, and then I added a sandwich bag filled with water, a plastic bag to weight down all of my vegetables to keep them in my brine. And I'm going to allow these to ferment on my counter or on my island for 5 to 7 days. So we did get that done today. And then we fermented yesterday. We fermented the vegetables, which was on my thumbnail today. And hi, good morning. So I got these fermented yesterday. And then we fermented the cabbage, and we started our sauerkraut using the fermenting brine, which is your correct ratio of salt and water, using the kosher salt and bottled water. No salt with iodized. You don't want your iodized salt. And we use bottled water. So this is more of our week of fermenting. So we have the sourdough starter that's fermenting on its own. I have my crock with my sauerkraut fermenting. I have my, sorry, I hope I'm not moving too fast. I have my vegetables fermenting. And then today I put the cucumbers and onions and garlic clove that I diced up, crushed clove, and then pickling spice. Added my brine, and I will be fermenting my cucumbers. And again, to just rehash, why do you want fermented foods like sauerkraut, like your fermented vegetables? These make a natural probiotic for your body, and your gut has good bacteria and bad bacteria. And this helps to balance out your bad bacterias and your good bacterias, and it works as a natural probiotic, giving you a good, healthy gut. So it's good for you. It is a way they used to preserve their foods naturally. One of the first ways they did, because they had access to salt and they had access to water, and they realized that if they added the correct amount of salt and water, they could preserve their food, and it was also a healthy benefit for them to eat it. So that was a way of them preserving vegetables, just like I did the zucchini. This one has zucchini, onions, some fresh garlic cloves, and black pepper corn, a couple black peppercorns, and some fresh rosemary. So this was a way that they could preserve their food and keep their food, for a longer period of time. So this whole week is my fermenting week. So I hope that was helpful. And I went ahead and I wanted to make my banana bread. And basically these bananas are doing their own natural fermenting from the stage of ripeness to the stage where I want to turn them into banana bread, because they've lost their ripeness and you don't want anything to go to waste. So you take this and you turn it into something that you can eat. And today I made the banana bread. So that was the bananas doing their natural fermenting in their inside of their peel. So that's what I covered today. And Monday is part 1 of sourdough. Yesterday was day 2 of the sourdough and how to properly feed it, because it's a new sourdough you just made. And then we started fermenting yesterday so yesterday was day 2 on the sourdough starter, and making sauerkraut, which I made over here in the crock, fermenting crock. And then the vegetables were started yesterday on the fermenting. And then that took me into day 3 of the bread dough starter, and how do I feed it on day 3, because it's a new sourdough bread starter. And then I fermented today some pickles, fermented cucumbers, onions, some fresh garlic cloves with pickling spice, and I used my correct ratio of my salt and water to start the fermenting. Put a sandwich bag in there with some water, and that'll help hold everything down. I put a lid on, but this is loose, so that way my gases can release. And this is showing different ways that you can ferment if you do not have the fermenting crock. This, I have a loose lid, and that's going to allow those gases to come out. And then this will be sitting on my island or on my counter in the kitchen, and I can just walk by and just raise the lid and let it burp, let the gases out. That way I know nothing's going to build up, and it's not going to cause a big mess, because you're going to start to see bubbles, and you want to leave enough airspace, headspace, so this can ferment and it'll start to expand. So you want to make sure that you leave that headspace, allow your headspace. And then by using this jar, which is another way, and you can probably already see some of those bubbles in there where it's starting to ferment. And the reason I chose this particular jar is it does not have a seal. You can hear how loose that is. It does not have a seal. So that's going to naturally let some gases up out. And it can sit again on my counter or island and just look pretty for a few days while it ferments. Probably about 5 to 7 days. And the same thing, I can walk by and just raise my lid and allow it to burp and just place my lid back on while it's fermenting. So that's day 1 through day 3. I hope that was informative. Oh, and then the final thing was we made our banana bread. So anyway, I hope that was informative. Hopefully that was not too boring. And it was informative, and it will help you to maybe go in and try fermenting, making your own sauerkraut, making your own fermented vegetables. They're healthy. They're good for you. They're good for your body. They're good for your gut and good gut health. That way you're getting your natural probiotics through fermenting, and then eating your fermented fruit or vegetables and your sauerkraut. So anyway, that's all I have today, and I've been on here over an hour and a half, and my legs and foot's really starting to bother me. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. Again, you're never too young or too old to learn new things. So come into your kitchen, try new things. Make sure you're always following the correct guidelines. Use your USDA guidelines if you're doing home canning or preserving. And then, like with my crock, my fermenting crock, it gave me the correct salt and to water ratio. So I was doing it correctly. I was doing it safely. And that crock that I'm using today, it's a Kenley, Kenley fermenting jar, 1 gallon. And it's made for fermenting. So that's the crock that I'm using to make my sauerkraut in. And then it has a step-by-step instruction guide that you can follow to make your own sauerkraut. But if you do not have the fermenting crock, you can use, for example, the glass jar that I showed you just now, or you can use a small container if you're just using a small amount, and then just do the same as what I did with the step-by-step process of first washing your cabbage, taking off your larger leaves, cutting your cores out of your cabbage, and then slicing up your cabbage. You can use a processor or just hand chop it. And then adding your salt. All of that is on yesterday's live stream, making sauerkraut. And it gave you the step-by-step how I went through and actually got it into the fermenting crock. And it is now turning into sauerkraut. So I hope this was informative. And I hope this will encourage you to try making your own sauerkraut or fermenting your own vegetables. And enjoy your kitchen. Go in, it's your kitchen. Enjoy it. Have fun, in your kitchen. But always follow the proper guidelines. If you're not sure, there's multiple videos that you can pull up on YouTube. And USDA food preserving has everything that you're going to need for the same processes, whether it's home canning or home preserving or even fermenting. And make sure you're always following those guidelines. So keep yourself safe. Hi, good morning. Keep your family safe. Safety first. And enjoy your kitchen. Come in and have fun and learn new things. And you'll be absolutely amazed that once you've learned these talents and these skills, how much you're really going to enjoy them. And how often that you can use them and then share them with others. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. My leg needs a break. It's about to give out on me this morning. So I'm going to hop off of here. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Now tomorrow we're going to do sourdough day 4. And tomorrow we're going to have a lot of activity on the starter that we started on day 1 on Monday. And we'll be moving that to a larger container. So I'll be back tomorrow with that. And until then, everybody have an absolutely wonderful day. Enjoy your day. Happy hump day, everybody. We're halfway through the week. Enjoy your day. And I'll see you the next time. Bye-bye, everyone. And if you do like this type of video, if you want to, you can please like and subscribe. I'm just a small channel, and I love sharing my cooking and my baking and some recipes in the kitchen. But until next time, bye-bye, everybody. I'll see you the next time. Bye. See you tomorrow.